The history of the first civilizations is full of great events and mysteries that arouse the curiosity of many. Many wonder how it was possible for human beings to evolve so rapidly compared to other species that had already existed on our planet. Ancient peoples, through their religions, have tried to offer answers about the creation of the world and the odd creative capacity of humanity. Perhaps the answer to this dilemma can be found in the text written by what was the first organized civilization in history, the Sumerians. The Sumerian civilization emerged in Mesopotamia around 4500 BC. Over time, it was responsible for building large cities and creating the first system of writing, known as cuneiform writing, on clay tablets. During archaeological excavations in 1849 in Iraq, 14 clay tablets with Sumerian writings were found. The translation of the text revealed one of the most fantastic stories of all time, the story of the Anunnaki Gods. According to the Sumerian manuscripts, there is a planet at the ends of the solar system called Nibiru. Every 3,600 years, it enters an orbit close to the planet Earth. Nibiru was the home planet of the Anunnaki, who were experiencing difficulties because the climate and atmosphere of the planet were changing rapidly, making it difficult to produce food and therefore to survive. It was necessary to use advanced methods of technology, alchemy, and magic to reverse this situation. To do so, a large amount of gold was needed, since this metal has purifying properties capable of resisting even cosmic radiation. However, gold was a rare resource in Nibiru, and without other alternatives, the Anunnaki used their advanced technology and sent ships into space in search of the precious golden metal. After a long and tiring search, they arrived on planet Earth about 445,000 years ago, where they were the first astronauts to cross space and colonize another planet. The planet Earth was inhabited only by wild animals such as mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and some apes. The Anunnaki settled in Mesopotamia and built a wonderful city called Eridu. In this city, there was a splendorous garden full of fruit trees and animals. The garden created by the Anunnaki was named Eden, and the first favorite place of the astronaut gods. Shortly after, gold extraction began in underground mines. To do the heavy tasks, they brought with them slaves from another alien race, the Igigi. After years of forced labor and humiliation, the Igigi rebelled against the Anunnaki, giving rise to the first war on Earth. The Igigi were defeated and decimated. The Anunnaki needed new workers. The solution was to create a new race of intelligent beings, able to work, but more harmless than the Igigi. The Anunnaki combined their genes with the ancestors of human beings, creating a hybrid and submissive race at their command. This genetic fusion did not go very well at first. Strange beings came to life, like the Nephilim giants, which, although extraordinarily strong, were devoid of intelligence and self-control. The first man to emerge from this successful genetic combination was named Adamu. Compared to human beings, the Anunnaki were incredibly tall and strong, and their weapons would be more than enough to control another possible rebellion. Over time, humans developed the ability to speak and learn from the Anunnaki, to take care of plantations and build houses made of clay and stone. The Anunnaki came to like human beings. They even allowed them to live in their city and attend the sacred garden, but gave explicit orders not to reproduce too much. Against the will of the gods, human beings began to procreate quickly, which caused overpopulation in the city. Many people were expelled from Eden and Eridu and condemned to live in exile in wildlands. After a few millennia, the planet Nibiru approached the Earth again. Nibiru's gravitational field was so strong that it adversely affected the Earth's natural conditions. There was an increase in the temperature of the planet, and the glaciers melted, rapidly raising the level of the oceans and causing constant rain. A great flood ravaged the Earth, and the city of Eridu was doomed to submerge. To save their creation, the Anunnaki created large boats that floated for days to normal water level. In this part, it is not clear whether the boats floated on the water or whether the boats were ships hovering in the sky. After their city was destroyed, the Anunnaki decided to return to Nibiru. But before they left, they gave human beings knowledge of architecture, mathematics, music, and writing. They also taught them how to establish a monarchy system, where some leaders kept their bloodline inherited for the Anunnaki pure, with the right to command others. They also ordered the construction of temples known as ziggurats, aligned with the constellations. These would one day guide the Anunnaki back to Earth. The Sumerian texts do not determine how many Anunnaki there are, but they quote some as the main ones. The most powerful deity in Sumerian mythology was An, or Anu, according to Akkadian calligraphy. Anu was the personification of heaven and possessed infinite wisdom. He was the oldest and most venerable of the gods, with sanctuaries in almost all Sumerian cities. The goddess Ki represented the earth and Anu's wife. The union between Anu and Ki gave birth to Anunnaki, a word that can be translated as children of heaven and earth. The first Anunnaki was Enlil, lord of the air, winds, storms, and responsible for keeping heaven and earth at a safe distance. Enki was the mighty god of the oceans and rivers, the patron of the city of Eridu. Later, his cult reached other peoples such as the Canaanites, Hittites, and Horites. The moon also had a ruler, Nana, worshipped as a god of wisdom and curiosity, responsible for teaching scientific and astronomical concepts to human beings. The god Utu was the personification of the sun and defender of justice, truth, and morality. Utu traveled through the heavens in his sacred carriage, emitting a brilliance capable of illuminating the world. The goddess Inanna was Utu's twin sister and goddess of fertility, war, and political power, also called the Heavenly Queen. She was one of the most cultured goddesses of Mesopotamia, adopted by Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians under the name of Ishtar. The cult of the Anunnaki was shared by many Mesopotamian peoples, adding new stories and divinities with the advancement of time, but always maintaining a very detailed essence. The history of the Anunnaki, written by the Sumerians, is full of scientific and astronomical references, very advanced for the time in which they were written. The knowledge is still one of the greatest mysteries of humanity.
Who is Anu? The Sumerian god of the sky and head deity and ruler of the highest realm. Anu was the child of Ansur and Kesar, the very first set of gods and descendants of primordial beings. Anu was known as the father of the 50 great gods, and ruler of the stars and the spirits. Anu, Enlil and Enki were the trinity that ruled over the heavens, the earth and the seas. Anu is sometimes referred to as An, and translates from the Sumerian language as High One, and the name Anu eventually became synonymous with God. Origin: Sumer was the southern region of ancient Mesopotamia, considered the cradle of civilization. Today, the area forms part of the countries of Iraq and Kuwait. Sumer means land of the civilized kings in Akkadian, the language of northern Mesopotamia. When the gods initially gave humans the gifts required for cultivating a society, the first city of Eridu was created in the region of Sumer. It was here that order and civilization originated. Records of Anu date back to at least 3000 BC, making him one of the oldest of the gods. Originally known as An, he was later called Anu by the Akkadians, who were the rulers of Mesopotamia after their conquest of Sumer. In the stories of Mesopotamian mythology, the earth was separated from heaven at the beginning of time. Family of Anu. The parents of Anu are Ansur and Kesar, the first gods who were created by the primordial beings Apsu and Tiamat. Anu is also known as the Great Bull, as he had several female companions. The first was Ki, goddess of the earth. Anu and Ki were identified as brother and sister in some ancient literature. With Ki, Anu had 50 princely offspring, also known as the Great Gods and the Anuna. Later on, with Nemu the goddess of the sea, Anu fathered Enki, patron god of the first city of Eridu, and Ninakaga, goddess of marshes. By Uriz, earth goddess, Anu fathered Ninsuna, the legendary mother of Gilgamesh. Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is the 3,200-year-old account of the protagonist's exploits and is the most famous tales associated with Anu. As one of the oldest surviving works of literature in the world, its discovery is considered one of the most sensational finds in the history of archaeology. Gilgamesh, 1/3 human and 2/3 god, son of Ninsuna and grandson of Anu, was the king of Uruk. He was handsome, strong and wise. Despite the fact that he was godlike, he wasn't kind to his subjects. He had walls around the city and magnificent temples built with forced labor. He raped any woman in the kingdom that he desired. His subjects were tired of suffering, and called out to the gods for assistance. They sent a man named Enkidu to keep him in check. Enkidu was a magnificent man, and the two became great friends. Eventually, Enkidu died of an illness brought upon by the wrath by the gods. Gilgamesh was heartbroken, and began his travels to the edges of the world to learn the secrets of the gods. In the earliest part of the epic, Enkidu lives with animals in the wild. One day, a hunter comes across him as he is sharing drinking water from a ground well with the animals. The hunter runs home to his father to tell him about the man who lives with animals in the wild. They decide to bring a prostitute to him, thinking that sex might calm him down, and that being with a woman could cure him of his unconventional habits. After the interlude, which lasted for 7 whole days, the animals rejected him. Distraught and alone, Gilgamesh goes back to the prostitute for comfort. She tells him that humans have a good life and he would likely enjoy being in the city of Uruk. Once Enkidu hears about the excesses of Gilgamesh, he sets out to the city to confront the king. Upon his arrival, he finds Gilgamesh about to enter the chamber of a bride to rape her. He blocks the entry, and the two wrestle it out. Gilgamesh wins and the two become fast friends. The men begin an adventure together and travel to the forest to steal cedar trees that are guarded by a demon. They kill the monster and build a raft with the wood from the trees. They use their raft to travel home to Uruk. Upon their arrival, they meet the love goddess Ishtar, the daughter of Anu. She expresses her lust and desire for Gilgamesh, but he rejects her advances with disdain. The furious goddess appeals to her father, requesting he send the bull of heaven as retribution. Along with the bull comes a famine that lasts for 7 years. Eventually the two friends hunt the bull down and murder him. Subsequently, a council of the gods is convened. It is decided that at least one of the men should be penalized for their behavior. Enkidu gets a fatal illness and endures terrible suffering before he finally dies, leaving Gilgamesh heartbroken over the loss of his friend. He heads into the wild to seek out Utnapishtim, so he can find out how to avoid the fate of his friend and prevent his own death. Utnapishtim is the Mesopotamian version of Noah. After the big flood, the gods gave him eternal life, and Gilgamesh wants to know the secret. Following much adventure, he finally finds Utnapishtim, who tells him the myth of the Great Flood. The Council of Gods had devised a plan for the destruction of mortal beings. Utnapishtim was given a warning about the plan by the God of Wisdom, so he built a huge boat to carry the seeds of all living creatures. When the flood ended, the gods felt remorse and regret. They vowed that they would not try to destroy people ever again. Utnapishtim was rewarded with immortality. Men and women would still die, but the human species would always go on. Insistent on living forever himself, Gilgamesh is tested to see if he is worthy of eternal life. It is suggested he start with staying awake for 1 week. He quickly fails, and is ordered by Utnapishtim to put his royal robes on and head back to Uruk. Upon his departure, Utnapishtim's wife tells him about an amazing plant that can restore youth. He finds the plant and plans to take it with him, but a snake snatches it one night while he is sleeping. As it slithers away, the snake molts its old skin and becomes young again. Gilgamesh has nothing to present to the elders of Uruk upon his return, but is at last reconciled with the idea that he will not have an eternal existence. He will not live forever, but mankind will go on. As he approaches the great city he built, he realizes his great achievement. Although he will not live forever, he will be remembered. His fine city will be his legacy. Historic influence. The Sumerian religion encompassed the mythology and beliefs of the ancient civilization, including the life of Anu. Since they were the first to have written language, their myths were recorded on tablets, upon which Anu features heavily, and which influenced later religions and cultures. As the father of the gods, Anu holds a key role in the mythology and its effect on literature and beliefs that followed. The similarities between the flood in Genesis and the Sumerian flood myth are a clear example of the possibility of the influence of the Sumerian religion and the tales of Anu and Gilgamesh on the Hebrew Bible, or Christian Old Testament. It's an easy extension to realize the possibility that Anu and the other deities yielding power over the world and its people have evolved into the similar beliefs in current world religions. The Epic of Gilgamesh is classic literature which has been translated into numerous languages and studied worldwide. Even though it is one of the oldest recorded stories in existence, and our modern world is very different than the world of ancient Mesopotamia, the epic myth remains timeless. It encapsulates the essence of the human experience,